Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Section 214 BC Alliance podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the road game that the BC Alliance played against the Toronto Argonauts at BMO Field. But before we get to really diving deep into talking about that result, I want to clear up a couple things before we get into our gut reaction in the game. The last episode, when I was talking about the Rough Riders and the season prediction, I kind of was just kind of just not really committing to talking about. I forgot about the existence of Trevor Harris, the starting quarterback of the Riders. Like I thought, because Fine was cut, Fine was cut. Um, they had like a QB carousel kind of thing, but nope. Trevor Harris exists, and he punished us for it by winning against against Edmonton in a comeback win of their own, right? So
He took it
yeah.
personally.
He took it personally. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but hopefully you don't punish us too bad when we get to face you next. But and excuse me.
I see.
Okay, sorry for that cut there. Trevor Harris must have been like fourth choking me from beyond somewhere because I was coughing up a storm. Uh, uh,
We love you though.
as I
Please
was
come on the
about to,
podcast one day.
yeah. I hope we talk to him and then I can apologize to him in person about forgetting about his existence. But anyways, yeah, the second point I wanted to get to was I also neglected to explain why we have AI rendered Moai statue heads as our branding, and that's a very intentional choice because just simply because we kept using like just Moai gifs. Like if you've seen the Metal Gear Solid 5 kind of clip where Venom Snake goes up to like a Moai statue head and it just goes into an extreme action cinematography kind of thing.
Mhm.
I thought that was yeah, I thought that scene was pretty silly, so we used that to our advantage. No, we used that GIF, and it's kind of like just a general uh, silly moment, and we kind of decided to make that our branding just because. Uh,
We love them away.
During game day
yeah,
chats, we're spamming the Moai emojis
Oh, it's
on a
Moai
good game
emojis
day.
and GIFs, and one of these days I might even have like a little Moai statue head right here, right?
Ambitions.
If any Moai statue makers want to sponsor the podcast, let us know. Section
One day.
214 at gmail.com.
and maybe like Easter Islanders themselves, like give us a head just to put in my front lawn.
I love it.
Uh, okay, so now that I got those two things out of the way, please stop choking me, Trevor. uh, Now we can get into the Argos game, and
Oh boy.
we'll get.
Feels like we're choking ourselves here by talking about it.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Oh my goodness
Yeah.
gracious.
Before we get into, and of course, before we get into the nitty gritty of the stats, I mean, we're just going to go through just a gut reaction to this loss, which was 35-27 in favor of the Argos. I'll just say this. I think overall, in parts, the Lions played good, but when they were bad, they were just. It was just. This game felt like death by a thousand cuts to us, and those are the kind of losses I can't stand.
Oh no.
Even more so than just suddenly choking in the fourth quarter and losing, right? Because it just feels like torture, and you feel like your team can, they can get back into this game and probably win it, right? And they never do, and that's what it felt like for most of the second half of the game. Um, Yeah, it was. Yeah, all three of us. Simba wasn't able to watch the game with us this time around too, but he did. I imagine if he was here and watched the game with us, I imagine he would have probably felt the same about it.
Have a tough time
But
hyping up this one, unfortunately.
no,
We would have been doing that in the
um,
first quarter or the first half, but
Yeah,
all went off the rails.
yeah.
yeah, we're. I mean, our spirits are pretty dampened by this, even though it's only the first week. I mean, I'll probably stress this again near the end of the episode, but I hope we don't have this kind of a game again against Calgary in front of a sold out crowd, because that's
Oh,
going to
that's
be,
gonna be really bad.
yeah. We have to. We have. It feels like the next game is a must win, even though it is against Calgary, and of course Calgary won their game too, right? So I mean, it kind of like they heard me, and well, they
Yep,
kind of saw my predictions and going, "Oh, I will show you today." It's just, uh,
that's an important game for the franchise, and
Yeah.
we needed some momentum going forward. Not great to get off to a bad start to the season with a loss. It's not the most winnable opponent. Toronto, they don't have Chad Kelly, but uh, what's his name? What was the quarterback's name?
Cameron Duke.
Cameron
Cameron
Dukes.
Dukes. He played well, and I think we really shot ourselves in the foot with the interception in the second quarter after we had all that momentum going up by 14 points. And that wasn't Adam's fault at all.
No.
Just a drop or a missed pass
Unlucky
into the
unlucky deflection. That's never the quarterback's fault when that happens.
yep, into his arms and shifted the momentum. That's how it went.
Yeah, I mean, again, well, the game started out slow. I mean, it felt like, well, all the games so far in the season kind of starts out slow with no touchdowns. Well, I mean, there was a touchdown, but there was missed extra point. I mean, missed extra points were a theme in this too, right? It was
There was
crazy on
three of
both
them even.
sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I mean, some of them were straight up misses, and then one for
The Lions, the snap was
yeah, the Lions,
snap was
yeah,
fumbled,
fumble snap, yeah,
which just
um,
pure counts as a miss too. It's just unfortunate. I guess what I can say for my first gut reaction is if you're a neutral fan of the game, this would have been a fantastic game to watch. Like if the Lions were not involved in this game and I was watching the exact same game, I would have loved it. Such an entertaining game back and forth. But as we're all, partisan Lions fans on this podcast, I hated it. It was really stressful. Didn't feel like eating much. And now I'm very unhappy that we lost. In case you can't tell, my demeanor
yeah, we
from today versus the previous episode is much lower.
yeah, we pretty much I mean, I pretty much fasted. Like I call this a football induced fast, right? Where we're so nervous we can't eat or drink, and it was. I mean,
Yeah,
I was sweating. I was starting to sweat like in the first quarter, and now I'm just drenched. But it's not just because of the heat, but because like yeah, the second half was just such a tease. Right? It was just we
my
fought
head is hot.
had, had
My head is
multiple
hot.
chances to win the game and just couldn't. Just kept shooting ourselves in the foot, like you said, Emma.
Yeah,
um.
we're gonna get into
So
that more.
yeah,
Lots
yeah,
to get into.
Not
yeah.
about how you start,
So
it's how you finish. And that's how it went for us.
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll go into now. We got our gut reaction out of the way. Now we'll go into the stats for both teams, offensive, defensive, and special team stats. So I guess you know what I can do. I'll read out the Lion stats, and then maybe one of you guys can read the Toronto stats afterwards.
Sure, sounds good.
In the document. So I'll start out with because I compiled these from the CFL website, and they have a game tracker for every game, so that's a very useful resource for me. This podcast wouldn't have been possible if I didn't have that kind of thing helping me out. So thank you,
Wanted
CFL.
to say shout out to Jacob who made a note sheet for this game, and it's 2,700 words.
Yeah, those are my own notes because I don't have a very good short-term memory. That's being charitable. It's a terrible short-term memory, and I wrote more or less a play-by-play of the whole game with my thoughts, just so I can remember the key moments in the game. And Yeah, reading through it, it's pretty depressing, honestly.
I was
Yeah,
about to say.
yeah, I did the same thing too, but I kind of went into vulgarities that I won't repeat on this show. So
The family
uh,
show.
the family show, yeah.
Well, as
Okay,
I was
so
saying, your notes are my notes because we all watch the same game, and I'm just as frustrated as all of us right now. So
Yeah.
yeah,
let's
we're
get into
just
the
yeah.
statistics.
I mean, we're just as vulgar in the group chat. I mean, too, but it was
Caps.
anyways, yeah, a lot of all caps, a lot of F-bombs and stuff like that. But um, so yeah, so for the Lions, offensively, Vernon Adams had 25 passes for, oh yeah, 25 passes completed for 33 attempts, 363 yards, which is a plus. I mean, he's good for at least a 300-yard game plenty of times. I mean, he showed that last year. 2 touchdowns, one interception, and that interception, I believe, it came in the second quarter, where it was deflected off of I think it was Holland's, and into a waiting Toronto defender's arm. So I can't fault him for that too much.
I
And
think Vernon Adams got really unlucky this game because in the first half, I think he went perfect in his pass attempts, except for that one interception, right?
Which wasn't his fault.
yeah,
Yeah, that wasn't his fault. Second half was a little bit more shaky, but especially the end of the game, but he got let down by his own line.
yeah, the outline play in the second half was especially poor.
Was
Uh,
It's been a
Yeah, a lot of
problem
the
for
sacks
several
from him.
years for the Lions, honestly. I remember back to the 2021 season when Michael Riley was the quarterback and
oh my
he was
God, he
getting
kept
beat
getting
up and pressured
killed.
every
Yeah.
single play. And the O-line really hasn't improved a lot since then. I know the O-line, gets a lot of heat and not a lot of thanks for their job because when they do a good job, nobody notices. But when they,
Mhm.
take a holding penalty or give up a sack, they get criticized. But you know what? That's the nature of the game,
And
and they were not good today.
and oh boy, did they give up a lot of sacks.
And
uh,
pressure
Six of
and all
them.
of that, yeah.
Just didn't feel good most of the time. I felt like he was being targeted all game. He was, but
He was.
we just gave him a
you know,
gave him a free pass most of the time.
Pretty much.
okay. So yeah, so
Didn't
I'll go through the receivers and running back stats. So for the running back, stand back, I thought he had an okay game. He had 11 carries for 35 yards, and he averaged about 3.2 a game, which is okay.
Could be a little
Nothing
better,
too
but not terrible.
he was
not
okay.
terrible. I think he had a couple of first down catches as well, but yeah, it was okay. I mean, it could have been better, but yeah, for the receivers, we had. I mean, I think if it were to crown an MVP for a game, even after a lot, I'd say Hollins. It's probably a tie between like Hollins and McInnes for my
Oh yeah.
MVP of the game. Hollins had 8 catches on 13 targets for 90 yards, and McInnes had 7 catches on 10 targets for 103 yards. So he had 100 plus yard receiving game in there. That's good. I mean,
I think with the losses this offseason of Dominic Rhymes, Lucky Whitehead, and the injury to Keon Hatcher, Alexander Hollins, he's the guy this year. So he got the
yeah,
most targets this game, and I
A lot of
think that'll
great
continue
catches.
throughout the season.
I
Yeah,
have complete faith in him, honestly. He
me
was
too.
excellent today.
He's a good player.
yeah. Couture had a clutch catch. I think it was in the third quarter. That was on also a I want to say it was a second and long, right? Too. I think it was
Mhm.
second and 25, or oh yeah. Yeah, a good catch in the game too. And then what surprised me the most was Fulgham, who is also another experienced NFL ex-NFL receiver. I called him "That's my Eagle" because he played on the Eagles a few years ago. I remember him playing on the Eagles, and I thought it was good on the team too. But yeah, he only went two. Well, he only had 2 catches on 2 targets for 54 yards, and of course Aberhart, who was he's just starting out. He only had the 1 catch in the fourth quarter for 27 yards. I really wanted to see him get the ball more. I hope he gets that chance in the Calgary game. But uh,
Yeah, I mean, I noticed all game, I think I pointed it out that he hadn't been targeted until like the fourth quarter, and he came up with that big catch in the fourth quarter for 27 yards. That's all we saw of him, but I think he'll get more targets for the rest of the year.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, so for the defense, I put down in the notes, I said DBs with sacks, interceptions, 10 plus tackles get priority reading. Unfortunately, none of our defensive players got 10 tackles. The closest was Hladic at 9, which
That's a good game for him. Nothing to complain about there.
Yep.
yeah, Woods had 6 tackles. Barga, Ailey, and Rene both had had less than 5 tackles. I want to say just combined. And of course, the secondary, the secondary didn't have any interceptions at all, which I thought there would be at least a couple from by Mr. Dukes, but no, and we'll get into Toronto a little bit after, but yeah, there was of course. Oh, sorry, go.
I just want to say I'm really happy we kept around Ben Hladic this offseason, because I was worried at the prospect of losing a lot of their defensive line, and he's a key player.
Oh yeah, impressed with him.
Yeah.
In the absence of Mathieu Betts, we need others to step up, and we'll touch on that a bit later too. So, but we need others to step up, and I would say he did.
Yep. Betts was not
Yeah.
in the building tonight.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Guess we can mention it now. He was in the crowd, just taking in the game. He's now moved on to the Detroit Lions, and that made me sad. Just I don't fault him at all for moving on to the NFL, but just kind of a little salt in the wound seeing him in the crowd and not on the field for us when he was so amazing last year. But we wish him all the best.
We do.
Yeah, I just hope he doesn't get too many sacks against Jordan Love. Is all I'm saying.
Always in your division.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, no, no, anybody but the Lions. They're good now. Yeah, the Detroit Lions. I mean, they're good, but
You're a Packers fan, so it would hurt
yeah.
you to admit it.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I'm afraid of him. I know it's gonna suck to be on the other side of his tackles and fact and stuff like that. But
Oh yeah.
anyways,
Moving on.
and speaking of tackles, for defensive tackles, we did have. I mean, overall, I thought the D line played pretty well, especially in that second quarter where it was the craziness where after the Hollins touchdown was scored, and then immediately on the first drive for Toronto, Dubai. First, Archibald forced a fumble on, I think it was Carey, and then Dubai recovered it for a fumble return for a touchdown. That was super hype.
One bit of momentum all game.
Yeah, Tehama had 8 tackles for a loss in this game too. I thought he did pretty good today, but again, it's just yeah, just certain aspects of the defense was good, but just when it mattered, it didn't really do so well.
No, we'll touch on that
and
a
then
bit
finally,
later.
yeah, and then finally to end off on for special teams. I mean, I thought special teams was pretty good too. Sean White was
The kicking was good at least.
Yeah, 51
Yeah,
yarder for Sean White.
Sean White went 2 for 2 on the field goal, then unfortunately 2 for 3 on the extra points for the touchdown because of the flub from the flub from his holder. Yeah. Flintoff, he did well. I think he did score a rouge, unfortunately, but he had 4 punts and they averaged 42 yards. I mean, he attempted the coffin corner kick, but it unfortunately went into for a rouge. But yeah, punt. Yeah, I want to give props to punting whenever I can, because just like the offensive line, punting doesn't get nearly as much love.
No, it doesn't, but it's just as important as anything else. And he was, all things considered, pretty good. He only had to punt 4 times, which is not bad at all.
Punting is an art if you're good at it.
Yeah, and
yeah, Toronto had the most 2 and outs in this game. Actually, I think we didn't even have any, did we? I mean, it wasn't really like 2 and outs; it was 3 and outs, right? Just
we'd always go down at the 50 and never be in range.
Yeah,
which would annoyed me a lot.
Punting.
Happened quite a few times in the first half.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then to finish off special teams, I mean, I had Terry Williams with the kick returner.
Yeah.
He had 4 catches on special teams for 35 yards. I mean, last year he wasn't that good on kickoff returns either, but I mean, again, it's only one game. I mean, I'm rooting for him, but I'm kind of like I'm not really impressed with
No.
his
Yeah,
one game so far in this year.
me and
And
Jacob
so far,
always voiced our displeasure about him last year. We were at a game, I think it was the Hamilton game where he
Oh, I
barely
remember
got
that.
any yards.
That was a horrible game.
It was a horrible game.
it was
So
horrible to watch at home, right? Just
yeah,
Yeah.
I wish we could have had Toronto's returner,
Well,
Janarian Grant, who had been haunting us for years in Winnipeg.
yeah, oh,
last
actually,
year.
that reminds me. The only one good return Williams had in this game was when Toronto in the first quarter missed the extra point, and then Williams brings it out of the end zone and gets it to about midfield. It doesn't count in the stats because it's a missed extra point, and if he had taken it all there, it would have only been 2 points. So of course he gets the good return when it really counts for nothing because after the play's over, there's a kickoff. So, you don't get to start at midfield or anything. You don't get a touchdown out of it. It just
Yeah, I think
basically just
he did
wastes
that
time
twice.
it just wastes
Yeah,
time on the clock, honestly, at that point, if you're not going to take it all the way back.
doesn't count for any yards either.
Pretty much, yeah. So like
Yeah, I
he
think
did good there, but it
he did that twice
doesn't
too.
benefit us at all.
Mm. So I guess I'll let you. Well, I mean, I'll let you guys talk about the Toronto stats and just quickly.
Yeah, I'll go
Guys,
through I'll go through them quickly because we're a BC Lions podcast, but I'll just mention, Cameron Dukes in his first CFL start, he was, pretty impressive. 21 for 27 for 254 yards and 4 touchdowns, 3 passing and 1 rushing, 37 yards and 5 rushes. Overall, I thought he played a pretty good game. He was able to get out of pressure a whole bunch of times and avoid sacks and make good plays. For the running back, Carey was really impressive. The Lions defense was very good at stopping him on first down, but then on second down, many times he would break through a whole bunch of players and just squared up the middle for 10-15 yards to move the sticks. So he had
yeah,
six.
I think safe to say he had his revenge game coming from Calgary, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
wanted to say I was not impressed by Dukes at first in the second quarter, and then he really turned it on. It seemed like he found so much space for the receivers. They were all in open space, which was quite annoying. They were getting first down after first down,
Which
which
makes their life a lot easier, obviously.
you'll get right into the receivers here.
Yeah. Polk went 3 catches for 3 targets, 40 yards. Daniels 2 catches and 3 targets for 27. Bailey went 5 for 7, 50 yards and a touchdown. Nelled 2 catches, 2 targets.
Yeah, kneeled. I think.
Kneeled. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. My
I
apologies.
forgot. Yeah, I forgot the I.
Oh,
We just
okay.
kneeled. Yeah.
Kneeled 2 for 2, 21 yards. Brissett went 3 for 4, 52 yards and a touchdown. And
Decent.
Sindani 2 for 2 with 21 yards. So
I want to
overall,
say, yeah, Brissett was also pretty good in the receiving for Toronto. I thought he did a decent amount of damage for what he had, right?
yeah.
I mean, especially with the touchdown, of course, right? But
And then we'll just give some special kudos to the Toronto defense as a whole. They
I don't
sacked
want to
Vernon
give
Adams
them kudos.
they sacked Adams 6 times, which has shades of last year's game at BMO when they intercepted him 6 times. This time they get 6 sacks. And there were 5 turnovers. One was a fumble, one was an interception. Then there were 3 separate instances of turnovers on downs, including 2 at the end of the game. So the Toronto defense stood tall when they needed to, and we'll give them kudos for that. And then finally, their special teams, Liram Haralahu, we missed him. I love saying his name. He went 3 for 3 on field goals, only 2 for 4 on extra points, including the miss at the end of the game, which we'll touch on later. And then Haggerty for punting. He punted 6 times, averaging 48.2 yards. So a little bit marginally better than Flintoff, but overall pretty good. And then Jamarian Grant had 3 kick returns for 43 yards, averaging 14.3 yards a return, which, I mean, you don't really need to do much to be better than Williams, and he did it.
No.
I expected Grant to be a lot better because he said he was a cheat code in Winnipeg. I just hated
yeah.
every time, and I was scared every time he got the ball in this game. I want to go back to the defense, and one of our guys, O-lineman, Perkins, was not very good. It's just bringing me back to our team. So
Yeah, I think, well, last year in the Western Conference Final, I remember Perkins getting especially destroyed by Winnipeg's defense, right? It was,
yeah, that led to at least 2 of the sacks. He gave them free roads just to run into Adams.
Yeah, but like overall, Lions had a lot of good performances. I would say overall the team played fairly well, but just the key mistakes when it mattered is what decided this game, and we're going to get into that. I think
Yeah.
now when we'll go through the game chronologically and talk about the key moments.
Okay. I guess I'll talk about the first half, and then you guys can talk about the second half.
Sounds good.
So yeah. So I would say from my notes here. And then I
I
guess
didn't watch the first little bit of the third quarter because I was in the bathroom and I missed the point where Toronto took the lead, so it didn't come back to a good scene.
So
yeah, and then I
that's
said
really
to
your fault, honestly.
never go to the bathroom
It's a
during the game ever again.
Needless to say, it was a pretty crappy start to the third quarter.
Oh, come on.
Okay, so yeah, so that first quarter that you missed a little bit of, I mean, it was a decent start to the opening drive, but of course, in midfield, it ended as like Toronto had like a group sack all over Adams. So that was after like one first
The
down.
O-line just completely
Yeah,
melted down on that one.
Shades of what was
yeah,
going to happen for the rest of the game.
that was an omen for what would happen for a lot. So on Toronto's opening drive, they had the one first down, but then of course their punter kind of punted to Williams. I mean, JF, you said that Williams should have let that go for a rouge.
Yeah, that early in the game, you got to play the field position game, and if you give up the point, there you take it at the 40 versus at the 10. So that early on in the game, 1 point doesn't matter all that much. You got to play the field position game, in my opinion.
I share that opinion, and of course, when the Lions got the ball back on their second drive, I mean, it died on the 50-yard line. I made note that the first three drives, every single drive kept dying at the 50-yard line. Of course, that wouldn't hold for long, but I'm like, oh, that's an interesting thing to note. Kelly at this point, Kadeem Kelly was shredding us. Also after on their second drive, and then it kept shredding, and then there were just dink and dunk passes by Dukes, and then eventually Kelly uh, caught a touchdown from 9 yards, and
On second or first and goal. I think the only
and
thing that I'll have to say about that play is, it was a really good drive by Toronto, but like I'm, our self-appointed referees expert, there was a pretty blatant missed holding call on that play. It was BC number 2, Josh Woods, who was being quite clearly held. He was like literally like his arm was being tugged like this, and he was like
yeah, it was
sitting awake, and
OPI, right?
it was really obvious that he was being held, and unfortunately it wasn't called. But we're all of the belief that, was that a blown call? Yes. Should the touchdown have counted? No. But like we're not going to blame this loss on the referees. My opinion is always if it's close enough that, one or two bad calls could have had an impact on the game like that, that's your fault for letting the game that be that close because bad calls are going to happen. And ultimately the Lions had, 3+ quarters to make that bad call mean nothing and they couldn't do it. So
Yeah, I mean, it was really just the one blemish on the refereeing in the game. I thought like overall with
they called it
I
fine
also,
game.
it was a fine call game. I mean, obviously, we're definitely farther down the line where there's going to be controversy, but yeah, this for now it's fine. But I thought, but then after that touchdown was scored, then Toronto had the missed extra point at first, and then
Shades of
and then
the balls that were introduced on Thursday. I was thinking to myself, like, what ball did they choose to use there?
I
It
don't
went
know.
well wide.
if it's a chip ball, like you gotta let us know. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the first quarter, the game was tied like 6-6.
No,
Shoot,
it was 6-0 for Toronto
yes, six to
after the
nothing for
first quarter.
Toronto, and oh yeah, I kind of missed that, but yeah, it was immediately in the second quarter where just within the first 5 minutes of the second quarter that McInnes had that touch 29-yard touchdown catch, and
Beautiful catch thrown right up the middle, caught it in
yeah,
traffic, got the job
that
done.
was that was the touchdown
Into the
where
upright.
Adams actually hit his
Yeah.
throwing hand, and at the same time, and then McInnes went into the uprights, which I mean, can you imagine if there was 2 injuries like that on the same play on a
Oh
That would have
boy.
been horrible. I was worried that his hand was going to be hurting. Like, oh my goodness.
Both of them look shaken up in that play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
they
thankfully
cleared.
Adams, I think, is okay, and of course, I mean, he proved that with the rest of his yardage in
Yeah,
the game.
looked
But
okay later on because he really in quick succession got another touchdown through
Oh,
a
well,
completion.
first, before I forget, there was a coaching thing that I wanted to get into before the touchdown, actually. Well, it was on the play that led to the touchdown. So Rick Campbell's coaching in this game was suspect at best. We'll get into that later. It's kind of a euphemism, but on the play right before the touchdown, the Lions had a 2nd and 5, and I guess because the crowd in Toronto was getting really loud, the play clock ran out and they were penalized for a time count, which is, it's a 5-yard penalty. And I really liked that Rick Campbell did not call a timeout there to wipe out the penalty. Often you'll see coaches in the CFL or NFL call a timeout to wipe out a 5-yard penalty. But I thought to myself, in the CFL, you only get 2 timeouts per game. This early on, a 5-yard penalty when you're, at your own at the opponent's 25-yard line. 5-yard penalty doesn't really matter that much. So I will say I really like that Rick Campbell did not take a timeout there, and he just take the 5 yards in that case. And then on the next play it was 2nd and 10, then boom, we get the touchdown.
Yeah, that was well, yeah, well, yeah, there was also on the McKinnis touchdown, there was also another missed extra point, and I put in all caps, can nobody kick an extra point or what? Just uh, yeah, and then yeah, after that
What happened
touchdown,
there? He just missed the snap.
Yes, yeah, completely bobbled it.
Man,
but yeah, fumbled the hole. That was the one where the
another missed
Lions
attempt. Not
yeah.
Toronto White's fault, just like how Adams' interception was not his fault. So.
Yeah, that was later on, but so yeah, there was a 2 and out for the Argos after that touchdown, and then when BC got the ball back, and then Fulgham had his 50-yard touchdown with that was one of the few faults of the Argos defense where there was nobody in the area code of Fulgham, nobody in the 6.
A 60-yard touchdown.
That was beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So many receivers open in the area there. He had at least 4 of them, 3 on the left side of the field. He had so many targets, he got the right one of them.
Yeah,
and we made the extra point.
Complete defensive meltdown there for the Argos, but we're not complaining.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean the offense furthered the meltdown here. I mean when they got the ball back on the first play of the drive, Dukes fumbled the ball from Archibald tackling him, and then Debaye returned it for a touchdown to make it 20-6. And we thought, oh my God, they're gonna run away with this game, right?
That was so great. I was worried though that they were gonna review it and say he was down, just because that's the kind of luck that Vancouver sports teams tend to have, but it didn't happen.
Nope.
It all happened so quickly.
Like it wasn't based on any evidence thinking he was actually down. It was just, bad sports luck in Vancouver.
Just
we know it too
well. Yeah, it's just and again, well, I mean Toronto sports luck is pretty bad too, but I mean the Argos and the Rock and Lacrosse, if you want to count them there, and also, oh no, the Blue Jays aren't having a good year.
No, they're not.
No.
I'm not wearing any Blue Jays gear right now. I'm wearing a different team's gear because I'm not happy with them. No,
Yeah,
I'm not like that. I just have a lot of hats.
Yeah, my orange baseball team won today, but I'm like, I kind of debated, or just a little tangent. I kind of debated whether to, not wear this hat because of how disappointed I was in this loss. I wanted to wear my Orioles hat because they won today, but I went, no, I'm gonna stick with this because if this was a fourth, well, I mean, we'll get to the fourth quarter, but like if this was like a real start collapse in the fourth quarter, I would have considered that, but it was it was more of like a death by 1,000 cuts. But
yeah, it was painful. It wasn't as big as a collapse as.
No, it was more painful and frustrating.
Yeah, after that fumble return for a touchdown, I was proud of myself for thinking like I had the like with how lucky the Lions were looking and at this point in the game, I was lucky to start thinking about I was thinking about the Canucks and how PDO became a meme because of how often they were scoring goals in the beginning of the year.
And we blew up the Oilers 8-1.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, they were just firing on all cylinders in the first half, and we thought, "Oh my God, it's football PDO real? Is there such a thing?" But then Adams,
Then we
after a
then
2-and-out for the Argos,
Toronto
and
went
then
2-0 there, and I just have another quick comment about the coaching slash refereeing. When the Lions punted that ball, or the Argos, sorry, yeah, the Argos punted the ball towards us. The punt landed in front of our returner and took a surprise bounce towards the Argos, which meant that led to a no yards call. And I'll just say that I don't really like that the no yards call in that case is 15 yards. It used to be if the
Yeah,
ball bounced on the ground, it was only 5. And I think in a case like that's where it kind of unexpectedly bounces back towards you, it should only be a 5 yard. But the correct call was made. It was 15 under the rule. But then Ryan Dinwiddie, who I don't think he's the
is the
smartest,
Argos coach.
not the smartest coach in the world, he was upset about the call, but could have challenged it if he didn't agree with it. So I don't really know why he was complaining. I mean, this is the same coach that a few years ago when the Lions played Toronto started kneeling the game out when the Lions still had a timeout because they didn't realize the Lions still had a timeout. And they kneeled twice and had to punt the ball because of this. So this is the same coach. So it's not a surprise he didn't know that he could challenge.
Well, he's a Grey Cup champion, though, and we're not.
That's also
So,
true. That's also true. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah, so I mean, you can have stupid decisions in the heat of a moment in a game, but if you win the Grey Cup, I mean, you're forgiven.
that's
right.
true. Fair
Chris
enough.
Jones has 4 Grey Cups.
Oh goodness, that's hard
Damn
to
it!
believe.
I don't like Chris Jones.
Don't let Edmonton hear that. They'll
Nope.
No.
they'll be like, oh yes, we got the Oilers in the Cup final, and anyways,
I know
so
Rick
yeah,
Campbell is
after
also a Grey Cup champion.
That's true, he is.
yeah, well with Ottawa, but I mean that was like a crazy one in and of itself. But we're not looking to be the underdog team, right? But I feel like if we keep losing like this, I mean I might have to be adjusting just my expectation for the rest of
Yeah.
the year.
Well, it's just
But
one game
again,
at this point.
one game. But yeah, anyways, I guess I'll just I'll make a point. About halfway in the second quarter, there was a potential Argo fumble that was ruled. Yeah, there was a ruled down by contact, and me and JS had a little bit of a difference in opinion.
Yeah,
I thought it should have been a I thought it could have been a fumble because just before the Argo player, I forgot his name, but before he fell, I saw the
Bailey.
ball jar loose like a little bit, but I understood that it was ruled inconclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way I saw it was they ruled on the field that he was down because they said his elbow, the elbow was part of the body. If that touches the ground, then you're down. His elbow touched the ground, and in my opinion, this might sound a bit complicated, but it was not conclusive. It was not clear that his elbow was not down. And because they said that his elbow was down, the standard is you have to be 100% sure his elbow was not down. And I could not see it being 100% sure that his elbow was not down, therefore the call of down by contact stands. On the other hand, if they had ruled it a fumble on the field, that probably stands too.
Yeah, it's all depending on like the ruling on the field always, right?
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
that's what we got to keep in mind anytime there's a challenge or just anytime there's a replay or just like a review.
Mhm.
And and another thing, TSN, I hate you. You reminded me that Matthew Betts is no longer on the team.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, that hurt.
I
On the day
I
that our
didn't
D
like
line was
that.
I
struggling.
know.
Oh yeah, man. I would have killed to have him back on the team, man.
Yeah.
Like, but again, the NFL is just enjoy it. Um, and of course that craziness happens and near the end of the second quarter up until the halftime. So Toronto scored another touchdown after
The pass to
after
Bailey.
Pastor Bailey 21
21
yards
yards.
through double coverage as
That was a
well.
great play by the Argos.
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah, and then the final craziness that I swear I've never seen in a CFL game before. Again, just like yesterday's game, or I think actually no, the game two days ago. It was going outside of the end zone like it was going to be a whoosh, and then outside the end zone and then back in for safety.
Yeah, that was wild.
But yeah, this in this case, Vernon Adams fumbles the ball on 3rd and inches. He recovers it. It was ruled a recovery, but because there was seemingly like no progression in terms of yardage on the play, it was still deemed a Toronto ball. Like it was still a turnover on downs.
Just
Yeah,
insane.
that was weird. Like, I didn't think that could have been like common sense until, it's such a short amount to gain that how can you say he didn't get it? But at the same time, it was good that Rick Campbell didn't challenge that, because there's no way they were going to win a replay and a whole bunch of bodies being able to see where the ball is. It was just not going to happen. So
Yeah, I don't know how you would challenge that really though. How would you word that?
well, you could say they got the spot wrong. Like
Yeah, they got the spot
on
wrong.
third down, you're
Yeah.
allowed to challenge the spot, and it was third down. So they could have, but I think he made the right choice not to.
Yeah,
Two
I
different
just
outcomes with the
that
same
was
result.
bizarre.
Exactly.
And yeah, Toronto took advantage of that turnover, but I mean, they only got a field goal out of that. I thought it was going to be another touchdown. We were going to be sitting here at halftime tied at 20, but yeah, Hau'olahu got a field goal to get it within 4, and that's the
The
halftime.
37-yarder after the Argos were penalized for holding, which pushed them back to, I think, the 40 or 45. And we had another disagreement here. I thought it was good that BC accepted the call, because had they declined it, it would have been third down at the 35 or so, and Toronto would have been in field goal range. But by accepting it, you push them back 10 to about the 45, and you at least have a chance to keep Toronto out of field goal range. In the end, it didn't happen, but so no harm, no foul. But I thought that was another good decision by Rick Campbell to accept that penalty. I'm giving him a lot of praise. This is not how I truly feel about his coaching day, but he did make some good decisions, and I will give credit to those decisions.
Yeah, always
Honestly,
give credit to good decisions and then just criticism where it counts.
Exactly.
we went into the halftime down or up by 4
Up
points.
4.
We lost the game. It didn't feel like a blown lead by that much, because again, at halftime we were only up by 4, but initially we were up by 14.
Yeah.
So we did blow a lead, but it didn't feel like it in the end. It just felt frustrating.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the third quarter, I mean, I think that was, we were gonna say that was our worst quarter to date, to
100%.
yeah, because there was like no, I mean, there was some offense in the game, but the defense was especially looking like sibs. I even made note of that. I mean, well, for one thing, Brissett did well. Yeah, there was a bunch of well, yeah, BC had the ball, didn't do much with it, and then Toronto, Kelly was still shredding the defense in the run, like the 1D, and then Brissett caught the 26-yard touchdown to take the lead, and I just put BC as having like a mini collapse. That's what I'd call it.
Felt like it.
Instead of I mean, like right now it's a full-on collapse. I mean, we have like a pretty big lead, but now we can classify it as like a full-on collapse. But at the time, it was a mini collapse because we thought we could still win this, right?
17 unanswered points.
17
Just
unanswered.
separated by halftime.
Yeah, and then well, then what Sean White did come around to tie the game back at 23,
36
and then
field goal. That was good.
yeah, it was back and forth field goals in the third quarter.
Then Toronto went up ahead and a 34-yard field goal of their own to go up 26-23. And then towards the end of the third quarter, another questionable, what I thought, coaching decision by Rick Campbell. Then I understood it a little bit better later on when they mentioned the wind on the broadcast. The Lions had a third down at about their 40 or at the Toronto 40 late in the third quarter. That would have been, 47-yard field goal. Any competent CFL kicker should be able to make that pretty easily. Anything inside of 50, they should be making in their sleep, right? But they sent out Stephen Flintoff to punt, and I was initially quite baffled by that. Like, why on earth would you do that? And then I learned later in the game, apparently the wind was blowing pretty heavily in his face. So, I still think he probably should have sent out the field goal team there, but, it's at least defendable what he did sending out the punter. And unfortunately, the punt didn't go well at all because he
Made it a rouge.
narrowly missed the coffin corner. So the Lions do get a point to make it 26-24. But then with the rouge, Toronto gets the ball all the way up at the 40 instead of the
Yeesh.
1. So like, yeah, that's pretty disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, on the note about the wind, I mean, the weather was pretty unstable in Toronto before the game, and the clouds. I noticed the clouds were like a little dark. I mean, there was some sunny breaks, but the clouds were especially dark, and I get it. Like Toronto with does tend to get stormy around this time of year. Uh, well, most of Eastern Ontario. I just I've only been to Toronto just for 45 minutes for a layover flight to Orlando, but yeah, it was worst 45 minutes of my life. And
Yeah,
this
it's hot at this time of year, but it is windy. We're early in June here, so.
Yeah, when I was at BMO last for the game, it was very windy.
Oh, and the stadium's right by the water.
It
We're
is,
almost
yeah.
right by the water, so
Yeah.
that might contribute to it.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Mhm. So yeah, let's go through the fourth quarter, and
Death by
this
a
is where
thousand
the
cuts.
game could have really been won here.
Lions did
Uh,
catch some breaks though. Should we talk about that challenge that Toronto made?
yeah,
Which one?
The one where where the BC receiver, I forget who's, it was Hollins. He toe tapped and they called him inbounds, and Toronto challenged, thinking that his right foot, one of his feet was inbounds, his other foot was landing out of bounds like a millisecond after he catches the ball. I knew right away that that was a catch and that the call
I
should
didn't think it
stand.
was at first, but
Most people disagreed with me. Like everything I read said everyone thinks that was going to be incomplete. I knew that his foot was down, and then after they looked at it a few times, they decided, the broadcast said, "Oh, that's actually probably a catch." And in the end, I think they got it right by upholding the catch. And then Toronto, with that, loses a timeout and the ability to challenge for the rest of the game, which
yeah, see,
could have been important later, but didn't turn out to be.
I was gonna say that was also an important catch to have, because at that point, uh, BC did have pretty bad field position. They were at the 8-yard line, and that was just to get out of that, just to get out of their own, well, I mean, deep in their own zone, right? That was just to get out of it, right? And then BC eventually got it down to the point where it was, Sean White had another clutch 51-yard field goal to take the lead by a point.
Had the wind at his back this time, so that helps.
Yeah,
But either way, full
that
credit
helps.
to him. 11 minutes to go, the Lions led by a point, and unfortunately, that was their last score of the game.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, well, both defenses were kind of locking in the middle part of the fourth quarter. I mean, Dukes did have plenty of moments where I thought it was slippery as hell. I mean, just felt like watching Russell Wilson in the NFL. Like, get him, damn it, no. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, he managed to make the Argos go to have the Argos retake the lead on a field goal as well. And then on BC's subsequent drive, there was a sack on first down for a loss of 15. And on second and 20, so on second and 25, then Aberhard had the one catch where we talked about earlier.
Great
The
catch.
one catch where he had a huge
That
second
was
and
a
20
huge
catch.
play.
Yeah.
He'd been basically
But
unnoticeable the whole game and comes up with that. So full credit to him.
yeah, I hope
No
he
targets
gets more
until then.
targets. I hope he gets more targets in the Calgary game too. But
Me too.
yeah, but that relief was very short-lived, because in field goal range on the 30-yard line, Adams fumbled it on second down, and
And Toronto took over, 3:27 to go.
yeah, and well, yeah, Toronto didn't score anything with that, and then BC got the ball back again.
They did, and I'll just mention another coaching kudos for Rick Campbell. I know it sounds like I'm going to harp on clock management a lot, but I've read, at least in the NFL context, I've read a lot of clock management articles and stuff, and it is a really, really important part of the game. There was a quote that I read about an American football writer who said that every second you waste may be the one you needed to win the game, and every second you leave on the clock may be the one your opponent uses to beat you. So like it
Yeah.
didn't literally come down to a second here. But I will say the rule in the CFL is you have 2 timeouts per game. But for whatever stupid reason, I don't know why this rule is in place, but you're only allowed to use one in the last 3 minutes of the game. So if you have two at the 3 minute warning in the fourth quarter, you lose one. So what Rick
You
Campbell,
automatically lose one. Oh,
that's right, yeah. So
I
what
didn't
Rick,
know that.
yeah, I don't
Didn't know
understand the
that
rule, but
either.
it is like it used to be you had one per half, but then they changed it so it was two per game, but after the 3 minutes in the fourth quarter, you can only use one. So what Rick Campbell did when Toronto got the ball back with 3:27 to go, we still had our 2 timeouts. He takes one of them right there, which was really, really smart because that, uses the timeout stops the clock until the snap of the football, which saves 20 seconds right there and uses the timeout rather than wasting it. You don't see nearly enough coaches in the CFL doing that, and it ticks me off every single game when I see them just running the time down to the 3 minute warning and a coach not taking their timeout. So kudos for Rick Campbell for taking that timeout there.
Yeah, just to avoid the automatic timeout one off, right? Or just
Just
uh,
losing the timeout at the 3 minute warning.
yeah, that's I I didn't put that in my notes, but that's kind of like the minutia of the game that
Yeah,
I didn't
I'll
feel
be I'll be harping on clock management a lot more in later
for
games.
sure.
Not too well, actually I have more clock management ranting to do later.
It feels
Well,
like it's a
yeah,
lot
but
easier at the end because the clock stops on every play after the 3 minute warning.
mhm.
But it's still how you handle it, whether go out of bounds, call a timeout. That
Yeah.
stuff can make an impact too. There was a game 2 or 3 years ago in Hamilton where the Lions were down one score and they got 2 plays off in the final 38 seconds,
Yeesh.
which is
Yeah,
completely
It's ugly.
pathetic. Yeah.
yeah. Again, yeah. I know the TSN announcers like Rod Smith or Dustin Nielsen, like they'll always say that 3 minutes in the CFL is an eternity, right?
Yeah.
Because unlike in the NFL, where you have to keep constantly taking timeouts just to pause the game, and if you have the ball, like after the 2 minute warning, and if you have the ball and the other team doesn't have any timeouts left, you can just like bleed the game immediately, right?
Which that's
But
that's
here,
boring to watch. And like here, 3 minutes can be eternity. It can also not be if you don't manage the clock properly.
mhm.
But in this game,
uh,
it really was. And we'll get into that. The final 3 minutes were pretty wild.
yeah, let's talk about the fumble on actually no, the certain 24 turnover on
So
the
let's
1 yard line.
let's
Oh,
let's just
that
say
was the
that
end.
first,
It
yeah, the
felt.
Toronto punted with 2.5 minutes to go. The Lions got it on their own 15. The punt that Toronto did was really brilliant. It landed right before the goal line and started to roll back into the field of play. So we couldn't have even given up a point there to get it up to the 40. So we had to return it to about the 15. And then on the ensuing 2nd and 10, Adams was pressured, forced to chuck it away. He got called for intentional grounding, which I think he was honestly pretty lucky that was not ruled a safety.
Yeah,
He was
everybody in
close.
Toronto thought that was going to be a safety, but yeah, he just threw it away like his foot was on the 1 yard line, nearing the end zone stripe,
So
and he just
just
chucked it
enough to get
away.
it out. Like it could, if they had called it a safety, it probably would have stood on review. So they get lucky there, but it forced.
I don't know about that.
I don't think so either. I think he was
No,
still in bounds, but I mean, he was just getting shoved by two guys. I mean, so
yeah,
Either
close.
way, good they didn't call it.
Yeah.
yeah. Either way, I mean, it's third and 24. I mean, like it's
And
desperation mode.
3rd and 24 at their own 1 yard line with about
Well, I mean, it was desperation mode according to Rick Campbell because the logical thing to do for us. I mean, as fans watching at home, we'd be like, okay, punt the ball away.
you
Just
still have a timeout at that point,
yeah.
and
But
he decides to go for it. 3rd and 24 on his own one. With let me see if I can find out how much time was left in the game at that point.
I think it was more than one minute to go.
It
It was one.
was
Like 130 or
it was
something.
1:30. Yeah, it was 1:34 on the clock when he
Yeah,
decides to go for it. When the Lions still have a timeout and they have a wind at their back, so they could have had a good punt. Honestly, it's completely baffling that he did that. It makes no sense at all.
yeah. The game was it was still 29-27 at that point. I mean. Yeah, yeah, it was like still doable. I mean, if you punted it away and then you let Toronto, like Toronto can kick a field goal and the game's still within reach, right? But
Yeah,
you know, like you could have saved a lot more time really if you punt the ball away and give your defense a chance to stop it and then get maybe like a game-winning field goal out of it, right?
Yeah,
Or-
baffling, completely baffling decision. And like, I just don't get it at all. If there had been less time on the clock, sure. If you didn't have a timeout, maybe. But like, completely baffling.
Yeah,
So
and of course, Toronto scored on an easy layup for a touchdown. Just to
yeah,
really, what mommy, it
somehow
didn't
we got
really put it.
close.
Yeah, it
We
didn't
got close
really.
on the
They
third
didn't.
24.
Yeah, they didn't really put it away. They scored a touchdown, but then there was another missed extra point. So
Well,
I
this
went,
this was this was funny because the Argos were up 8, 35-27 at that point, and for some strange reason, they lined up to go for 2,
I'm
which
shocked.
we were all baffled by that because you kick the extra point, you go up 36-27, you're up 9 points, 2-score game, that's it. But if you're
Yeah.
going for 2, you're only going to go up 10, which is still a 2-score game, but the probability of getting it is so much lower.
Are they
yeah, I
thinking the
think
wind
this.
is
Yeah,
going in the direction?
We were
Like,
oh no, that was probably like a special teams coordinator kind of
somebody made the
almost.
run.
Yeah, somebody made the wrong call, and we're like, okay, no, 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 let's kick the extra point,
We were
but they missed
baffled.
it.
They took a timeout to make sure that they could send the kicking team out.
Yeah,
And then they
and
missed the extra point anyway.
they missed the extra point anyways, and here we go. We're thinking, well, I'm already flashing back to Colton Sisson's missed no,
Empty
missed
net
like
goal.
empty net goal, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what if BC scored the touchdown to tie it and win it in overtime? That I would have called this episode deja vu, right? Just crazy ass ending, and I mean, yeah, but they just yeah, it was a missed extra point, and we thought,
And then
okay, we're still alive, but
we
BC,
should talk about the kickoff that Toronto
big,
did.
yeah. Oh, I didn't put that in
They
there.
they did they did a short kickoff, squibbing it
Oh
up the
yeah,
middle
the squib kickoff.
rather than
Oh,
kicking
that's
it to
yeah.
Williams. And I think all of us can unanimously agree, why are you scared of Williams? Like, really?
Yeah, it was picked up by 92, and I forgot her name, but yeah, it was a
thank
defensive
goodness.
end. Yeah, I think it was.
Big guy
It was
touchdown. That's what we
Josh
were all hoping
Banks.
for.
He takes it all the way up to the 50. Like, Williams wouldn't have gotten it that far. I don't know what
Nope.
what they were afraid of.
Williams
Like,
is not a big guy.
no, he's not a good player either. So I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah, so
know.
I mean, the defensive end the name escapes me, but yeah, he did what he could to get within a reasonable range, and then for the last Lions drive, this was like the cherry on the poop Sunday. It was another basically ending with another turnover on downs after a sixth sack by the Argos defense,
That
and I
sack
was
was ugly. Perkins let the guy walk in, and Adams
And then
free
of course the
pass.
3rd and 21.
yeah, that was
And
just completely frustrating.
and
Just a way to end the game.
then
Just
another coaching mishap by Rick Campbell at the end. How much time was there left before that 3rd down play? I'll pull up the play-by-play here.
48 seconds.
There's 59 seconds on the clock when Adams was sacked on the 2nd and 10, and Rick Campbell decides to take his time out there, which I'm sorry, you can't do that. And the reason for that is if you have no timeout left and there's 45 seconds left in the game, game's over. They can bleed it out. But
yeah,
if you do have a timeout left, you can go down to say 25-ish They have to get it down to about 25 seconds to be able to bleed the clock out. And by calling that timeout there, all that means is, if you flub this 3rd down, which they did, that means Toronto can kill the game. But if they had flubbed it and the Lions had still had a timeout with 40 seconds left, I know this sounds really nitpicky, but they would have had at least a chance to get a stop, get the ball back with maybe time for one Hail Mary. So like another thing in this clock management website I read a lot from, you got to at least give yourself a chance.
yeah. Just
And
even if it's a very small chance of winning, like it's
and
gotta happen, right?
he didn't give a chance there, even if
I'll
it's
need a
one Hail
link to
Mary.
the clock management website.
Oh yes,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll find that for you.
Brain fudge knew. Yeah, yeah. Brain fudge knew at the end of a
But
game like that, which is
like
baffling. Right?
you
Just
just give yourself a chance. Last year, and was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year in the Western Final. The Lions had a Hail Mary touchdown right before halftime.
Oh, yeah.
And that was
oh my
How
god.
did that happen?
or
Yeah,
in
I remember that. That was
How did that happen? I can't believe it.
or the 2010 I remember this, the 2010 Western semifinal Lions
That
in
was against
Regina.
Saskatchewan. Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember that one.
Manny
Yeah,
Arsenault catches the Hail Mary with no time on the clock
from
to tie it
Lule.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah, like so
that was the start of the legend of Lule. Yeah, that was.
Hail Marys
uh,
occasionally work, and by calling the timeout there, Rick Campbell didn't even give the Lions a chance to have that Hail Mary, and that was disappointing. Would it have ultimately saved the game for them? Probably not, but it guaranteed them losing by doing that.
yeah, just again, you have to give yourself a chance at at most points in the game. But I just think that Rick, just in the heat of the moment, it's just never really, just thinking about really like the short term, well, just never really thinking past, the immediate play, right? Like it just felt like
Yeah,
just
wasn't
you have
thinking
to.
he wasn't thinking down the road at all.
Yeah, we've yet to really. I mean, we're doing this recording immediately after, well, not immediately after, but just some
It's
time after the
about
game.
9 o'clock on Sunday night.
Yeah, yeah, we haven't watched Rick Campbell's interview. Yeah, because I'm gonna assume they'll have it up by now, but I'm gonna.
We'll
It,
probably tweet about it during the week from our socials.
He's quite well
yeah,
spoken.
we'll retweet that, and then I imagine if we were media members asking Rick, like what were you doing on that third and 25, like at the one, right? Like just uh
Definitely.
Yeah.
definitely. So yeah, that was the whole game recap. That was again some good things, some bad things, your typical kind of fail.
Good things, bad things that led to a loss. Because if the game ended 25 minutes in, I think I would have said we deserved to win that. I thought we were going to win it. Thought we were going to
Yeah.
run away with it, but momentum changes. It was up to us to stop the momentum. We let it get to us 23
Yeah, and
20, and
now I was gonna say, and now, the next time we face the Argos, it's gonna be with Chad Kelly, no doubt, as a
yeah,
quarterback. I mean, this was a missed opportunity on two fronts. Not, I mean, taking advantage of Duke's relative inexperience in the CFL, and of course, not taking advantage of Winnipeg losing. Um,
there's no wins in Toronto since 2019. Weren't able to snap the streak.
Nope, not this time.
yeah, and that win in 2019, if I remember correctly, that was a win where BC actually won on a ruse, right? So that was
Yeah,
like
Unbelievable.
that was I I I during the course of the game, I kept talking about like, imagine if this was another rouge off game, right? I was trying to manifest it, the funniest result ever, right?
Could have happened.
Again, but it's no. Uh
it wasn't meant to be.
Just wasn't
Yeah.
meant to be. So yeah, that was ultimately, it was a disappointing game, and so we'll talk a little bit about the next game. So for Calgary, I mean Calgary, they won during the course of recording of episode 0. So they're the ones
32,
that are yeah,
32-24
they're,
over Hamilton.
yeah, they're the ones
West
who are
Division is flipped. Both
is
BC and Winnipeg have an 0-1 start.
BC at the
yeah,
moment
and
though
Edmonton
is
at the
third in
one.
the division because of the point differential. So like, yay, still a playoff spot. Yippee.
Thank you, CFL.
Thanks, Edmonton, for choking. But yeah, so I mean, I think if we want to, I mean, I do think this Calgary game is going to be pretty much. I mean, it's going to be a very important game for us early. I mean, even before the Winnipeg game, which comes up the week after, right? Because the stakes for this are, we have to tie in the standings of Calgary for one. I mean, hopefully Winnipeg loses again next week. I mean,
It'll be
What's the
again,
Ottawa.
schedule?
hope.
They're playing Ottawa. It's Ottawa's home opener and season opener.
Yeah,
Okay.
go Ottawa. I'm used to saying go
Redbacks
Ottawa. I would
fan
say
now.
yes. But yeah,
Thursday night.
but
Yeah.
yeah, wait, what's our Calgary game? When's that going to be?
It's
In
on Saturday.
Saturday at 4 p.m. I will be there.
in,
It's the concert kickoff with 50 Cent and 50,000 people.
We were
So
gonna tell you all to buy tickets and go to the game, but all the tickets are sold out. So like,
yeah,
it's a huge game for the
for the
franchise.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for the
like
first time in what feels like forever for me, at least. I haven't heard of a sellout in BC Place really since the Grey Cup.
yeah,
Or since,
honestly.
well, I mean, yes, yeah, it's always Grey Cups that get sold out, obviously, but I think in terms of actual, Lions fans, casual and hardcore coming to the games, it's you know,
It's big.
this amount on this scale. I mean,
It's a must win.
last year, yeah, last year was pretty good with attendance
Like
too, but I mean, this
33,000
is,
last year.
yeah, in our home opener, but yeah, this is even better, right? I mean, like, Amar Doman is just revitalizing the image of the Lions in
Look at what he's done.
And
BC sports, right?
like
Games
this
are
Uh,
just so
for-
fun to attend.
Oh, it's great. This game though, I say is basically a must win, not because oh my goodness, the Lions are going to miss the playoffs if they start 0-2. But in terms of the future of the franchise and getting casual fans to come back more regularly, you've got 50,000 there. You need to put in a fantastic show like they did 2 years ago when they had One Republic in for
oh
the
yeah,
concert kickoff and they blew Edmonton out of the water. Like you need to do that again this game.
against the other Alberta team,
Tonight
yeah.
would have been a foundation starting the year 0-1 or 1-0, but instead we started 0-1. So need to claw our ways back to 500 in the next game.
Yeah, and I mean, again, the implications for this, again, we'll be keeping our eye on Winnipeg too, right? Like if they start 0-2 and
We hope.
it's yeah, like we hope they go to 0-2 and then we get to 1-1, and so if we go into week 3, we'll be, we won't be too terrified if Winnipeg beats us at home, right? But although, yeah, I mean, already like these first 3 weeks of the season is just instant playoff mode right now. It feels like, right? It's just
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess we'll wrap up with talking about like the other couple games because we already briefly talked about Winnipeg and Ottawa. I mean, we're rooting for Ottawa on that one. That'll be on Thursday. Montreal and Edmonton. Montreal will be in Edmonton on Friday. I do think Montreal's going to win that game pretty handily, considering how Edmonton didn't play very well in their game either.
Nope.
And then yeah, and then there's our game on Saturday, and then ending off week 2 is Saskatchewan and Hamilton.
I think
Hamilton will be looking
the Elks are going to lose. They're playing at home.
Yeah, they're
to
playing Winnipeg.
Montreal, and yeah, Saskatchewan and Hamilton. I think I don't know. I get a funny feeling that Hamilton is going to win that one. I mean, I just based on I think Bo Levi Mitchell. I mean, I did see the highlights of the second half. I didn't watch like the end of the game, but I did watch the highlights after it. I did think, I mean, Bo Levi did have a better second half. I mean, I'm hoping he can like every East versus West game, like we're going to be rooting for the East every time, right?
Sure we are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
East crossover year.
Yes, please. Make it happen.
Okay, so yeah, I guess
Yes, we can wrap it up.
I think
yeah,
that's
we
it.
can.
Only
Yeah.
final thing I'll say, as always, you can contact us on our social media channels. Section 214 SECTIONTWOFOURTEEN, all words, at gmail.com. That's our email address. And then Twitter and Instagram, we are at Section 214 Pod. And then on YouTube, we are at Section 14 BC Lions Podcast. And you can
Oh
subscribe to
yeah.
us there.
Yeah, we
And
have Anna got like and I'm posting on Reddit and the CFL
perfect.
subreddit too. Yeah,
Perfect.
you'll find us there too. Um,
And tell your friends.
yeah, yep. Just
Tell Lamar Dolman. How about that?
Tell them Ardone we want him on the show.
Yep, we love him.
yeah. So yeah, that's gonna be it for us for tonight. So yeah, disappointing loss, but I still think that we're still gonna be I'm sure the Lions know that the next 2 games are gonna be like absolute must wins for not only keeping the fan base around, but also to put more confidence in us for at least the rest of June and into July, right? So uh yeah. I was hoping we'd come out with a win here, just take advantage of Toronto's inexperience at quarterback, but
Well,
Yeah, again, wasn't meant to be, but yeah, well, I hope we'll get a revenge for the Chad Kelly game, I'm sure, in September.
We're
I think
looking
as
forward to that.
I can take
Yeah.
away from this game itself, as we went off to a good start but didn't win the game. It's not about how you start, it's how you finish. So let's hope
And
we
we didn't
finish the
finish
season
well.
strong, but progress and win the next game.
Absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, that's gonna be it from all of us. So yeah, we'll see you either after Saturday's game or the day after. But I think we should be able to do a recording after the game again. We'll
I'll just
see.
take the train home and right on here.
Well, we'll
I'll
let
be
you all
there.
know what that happens.
Yes, we will.
Yep.
All right. See
Okay,
you all next
so
week, everyone.
okay, bye-bye.
Goodbye.